call the meeting of the Board of Trustees of Dexter Township to order. And we're going to start with an optional Pledge of Allegiance. Anyone who wishes may rise and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next is the roll call and conflict of interest check. Gretchen Driscoll.
Here.
Michelle Stamoulis.
Present.
Mary Smets.
Here.
Lonnie Scott.
Here.
Karen Nolte. Myself, Karen Sickinga, I'm here. Any conflicts of interest with any agenda items? Okay, and Laura Sanders is absent at this time. I haven't heard from her, so I assume that she'll be here. Next up, can I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Driscoll. Any
Second.
seconds? Seconded by Lonnie Scott. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, then that's unanimously approved. And then the first call for public comment on agenda items. Please state your name and address for the record and limit comments to 3 minutes. Any members of the public wish to speak?
Lois, be sure to push the button on the side until the light turns green. Find it? No.
It's on the back.
Oh, that button, okay. I'm going to ask permission first to speak on a non-agenda item because I have to go to another meeting. Is that okay or not? Not on somebody else. It'll just take a minute.
Is that at my discretion, Sarah, or can I? Yeah, go ahead.
And thank you for that permission. I just wanted to bring to the board's attention the importance of pickleball. I know that trustee Nolte plays it or has played it. Wonderful courts in Chelsea. Have to go all the way to Chelsea to play pickleball. And I wanted to bring to your attention that it might be something to think about on your next master plan and maybe a little sooner than that. I have pursued the city of Dexter, actually I'm going to their rec meeting tonight to bring up that topic for their master plan as it comes up next year. And I have called Metro Parks to find out that they're thinking about it. And my thinking about it is more than Dexter Township, it's wider, Webster, Dexter, city of Dexter. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and have you mull that over a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public?
Brad Metz, 9800 Town Road. Anyway, I would like to start off by thanking Madam Clerk for obtaining and sending me my FOIA request. I just wanted to revisit, since it's on the agenda, some of the things that I mentioned last time in front of the board and is currently in the consent agenda. I know that on top of that, the park pass issue is also up on the agenda for today. And I was just hoping that the township credit card would be used to be purchasing said parking passes instead of somebody's personal credit card. So, cause that, get yourself over $13,000 in points or returns or whatever it might be. So it should be that way, just so that there's tracking, and there's a receipt for what's purchased, what's received. So basically just keeping checks and balances. I also mentioned that an individual on the board had stated clearly while at the May 7th, 2023 special meeting of the Board of Trustees, that they would only vote for a Democrat. And just to let everybody know, that starts 1 hour and 39 minutes into that meeting. And that just doesn't seem like hiring the best person for the job. Also, on page 10 of the agenda, it's mentioned some different times for Scioto Township and Webster Township, specifically for planning and zoning. A quick phone call changes that to Sharon McCormick at Scioto Township, doing code enforcement for 20 to 24 hours per week. And Chris Chang is their full-time planner. Webster Township, Mike Zenick, 3 days per week, 18 hours, 6 hours each time. And they also have a planner Monday through Thursday from 8 to 4. So the staff that's needed in there should probably be changed. And that may also be why on page 27, zoning and planning are over budget, with 42% in being at 52% and 61%. That'll do it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brad. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, then I would like to acknowledge that Laura Sanders is here. She arrived, at 6:02. Okay, so. Sorry about that. That's okay. So let's move on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Scott,
Support.
supported by Stamble Ellis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then with that, the consent agenda is unanimously approved. Now let's move on to the discussion items. The renewable energy local ordinance was discussed at a special meeting of the Planning Commission yesterday, and I see that we have 3 members of the Planning Commission present, as well as Gretchen Driscoll. I don't know if the Planning Commission members are interested in stepping forward and standing at the microphone, but I am interested in having the board receive an update on the outcome of that meeting last night, because we will have to act quickly if a local ordinance is put in front of us, and so I want the board to be as up to date as possible on that. So are any of you interested in stepping forward?
I am.
Okay.
My name is Alicia Abbott, and I serve on the Planning Commission. We've been, had a working meeting last night. It was open to the public, and we had 1 member of the public present. Thank you, by the way. We're trying to come up with a zoning ordinance that would work with the new energy bill that's coming out. So after a thorough discussion, the commission agreed that we want tighter control on decommissioning and safety and emergency plans and landscaping and screening. So what to get that, we want to remove some language where we're concerned that a developer could misconstrue the meaning and it would allow him room not to comply. We also want larger setbacks for fencing and screening and fall zones. At our next meeting, the 24th of September, which is also a public meeting, we will receive a new draft to work out the language in. The hope is that we'll have a public meeting for the October 22nd meeting, have a public hearing, and we may then send that zoning ordinance up for your review and approval.
Great. Thanks, Alicia. Steve or Marty, did you want to add anything to that? Gretchen, can you give us?
Is Megan not coming tonight?
Yeah, Megan is not coming tonight.
Well, I think Alicia covered a lot of it. We did a mailing to the community about the renewable energy legislation that was passed that will become in effect November 29th this year, and the attendees were very clear that they wanted us to enforce as much local control as possible. So that was really the bulk of our conversation last night, was the decommissioning in particular. The state legislation isn't very protective of local interests and the actual landowners, so we would like to make it a little bit more meaty to protect the township from bad actors, and also setbacks and screening. I think that's it, right, Marty? And I don't think there's anything else right now. I think we basically came up with trying to take what's called a compatible renewable energy ordinance, which is basically mirrors the state legislation, and add some of our own conditions, and that makes it a workable ordinance. So then that's what Megan's gonna be merging the conversation of these two efforts and have a merged document next week at the 24th for the Planning Commission public meeting.
Okay. So if you approve, can you approve an ordinance at that meeting on the 24th with the public hearing, or does it have to wait?
We're not gonna do a public hearing, because it's still not, there's still, I think, we spent a couple hours just trying to work through how to best, we wanna make sure that the whole point is to be able to have a ordinance that a project developer would be willing to work with us, so they don't go to the state. Because the state has less restrictions. So that's what we were trying to do, and that meant kind of taking what was started as the compatible renewable ordinance, which is basically the state legislation, but something at the local level, and then adding our own limitations. So I don't believe there'll be a public hearing next week. I think
I see.
we're just gonna be finishing the final ordinance so that we can post it.
We'll have what should be a final draft, and then public hearing in October.
Right.
Okay,
And then to the board for November meeting.
for the November meeting, okay. And if the board has questions, then it'll have to go to the next term to the next term, okay. Gotcha.
And just if Gretchen can touch on a question I have. I was there at this meeting, which I actually appreciated, you guys having an open meeting to actually have a workshop to discuss before just bringing it as an action item. That was fantastic. But so November, I'm not sure, you can provide us with a date. In November is the deadline, but there's also a grace period, correct?
Well, November 29th is when the legislation takes effect, and then the process that the law has implemented creates is that the developer has to go to the local unit of government first, which would be us, for I think it's a 60-day process, and then if they don't feel satisfied, and if we don't have reasonable ordinances or a CREO, then they can go to the state. So the concept is that the state is the last resort, and it's really a function of, there's been some moratoriums out in the state, in some townships, that have caused developers in the middle of a project so we don't really have anybody that, and we haven't asked, I haven't asked anybody in the last month, but when we started this in the summer, there wasn't anybody, imminent coming. So we don't expect anything to happen right away. We just want to be prepared if we do get a developer, that we can protect the township as much as possible.
And I appreciated hearing that, because that was a question I had, which is a big reason why I came to that meeting. If we didn't have an ordinance in place and someone came in, say, on the 30th of November or the 1st of December, would we still have that grace period? Or
Yes, the requirement of the law is that they have to come to local unit government first and do a 60-day due diligence.
Okay.
And basically, the decommissioning is what basically is, if there's a project, if it's solar or wind, if they take it out, they have to put it back the way they found the land. And the state level is not, it doesn't require 100% surety bond. In other words, 100% of the cost of taking it out the day that the project is operational. It's like 25%, and then like 10-year. It's like a 10-year. Over 10 years, you can get to the point where it's 100% replacement. And it's just not. if something happened, we feel like that could cause some problems if the project didn't move forward properly and they just built and then left it sitting, which we've seen other types of construction that happen. So it's a way to protect the township right from the minute they make the investment.
Are there other questions?
Thank you.
I have one question. So I think I understood from Megan that if we go forward with an incompatible ordinance, we may forego some revenue.
Correct. I believe it's $2,000 per megawatt.
And how many megawatts is?
Well, the bigger ones, it's 50 megawatts or larger.
So
So we
that's,
talked
that's
about-
some significant, you know,
Yeah.
that could be $100,000 a year. or something.
No, I don't think it's a year. I think it's a one-time.
Oh, a one-time, okay.
And I think the other thing, the cost of removing a project could be a lot more significant to a township than that. We kind of felt like it's better to have a long-term thought process about controlling the project and making sure that it does return to farmland if it's on farmland versus getting an upfront payment. I think that's I think the state kind of did that to incent some change in behavior of the townships, but I don't think they're really protecting the townships sufficiently. So, in my personal opinion, so I'm more, if we were thinking about the life of the project, it's like it could be a 20-year project or more, and God only knows, you know, what it would be like then. So, and also we talked about some maintenance and screening, some things that for the, you know, for the community just to, you know, minimize the impact as much as possible. So, and there may be some more money, there's some grant money out there right now through September 30th called for renewable ready communities. So right now, if a project's getting approved, they're getting, I think it's $5,000 a megawatt or something like that. So there may be some money, there supposedly may be another iteration of that grant possibly, but it's not clear, I think, till after the election and the budget and everything.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then I will conclude that discussion item, and then we'll move on to code enforcement funding sources, which you all had asked for, or we have been discussing what is a proper level of code enforcement and what kind of policy we want to have around code enforcement. This was one piece of that puzzle. So we did get a legal opinion about the use of the police millage for code enforcement, and I wanted to discuss that in closed session. So I'm wondering if I can get a motion to
Move to go into closed session.
yeah, to move to go into closed session. And can I get a second? So moved by Driscoll and seconded by Nolte. And if I would like Sarah to stay and Janice, does that have to be an amendment to the motion, or can we invite Sarah and our attorney and our recording secretary?
The recording secretary would go in normally anyway to take minutes, and then I wrote the opinion, so.
Okay,
Yeah, I think you don't need to amend the motion, I think it's just assumed that the attorney will come in and talk about it.
okay, sounds good. So then invite the public to wait in the lobby. Oh, okay. Okay, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, a roll call vote, okay. So Mara Smets.
Yes.
Lonnie Scott.
Yes.
Karen Nolte.
Yes.
Michelle Stambolelis.
Yes.
Gretchen Driscoll.
Yes.
Laura Sanders.
Yes.
Myself, Karen Sickinga, yes.
Did we turn off the recording?
Well, just a second.
Oh.
I'm writing down if you voted.
This is the opinion, which I'm going to